This is SciStarter Live, our weekly webinar at SciStarter, where we talk about a different topic every week. This time around, we are speaking not to the project scientists themselves, but to the citizen scientists, the volunteers who work on these projects and do excellent work as a part of the community to get these questions answered for the science research. So as a part of that, we are including 5 different projects that were top of the list on SciStarter, which includes number 1 of stall catchers, and then number 2 of CoCoRaHS, then 3 iNaturalist, number 4 is Backyard World's Cool Neighbors, and 5 is Eterna. So we have someone from each of these, including myself as the CoCoRaHS representative here, and then and Roland, also on the SciStarter team, is representing Eterna. So I'm going to have the rest of them introduce themselves now. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share so we can see each other. Excellent. And you should be able to see everyone. Perfect. All right, so we are going to go around the group. I'll call on each of them to tell us who they are, what's their name, what project they're representing, and something, a bit of background about why they're here, why they work on that project. So top of my screen is Jeff. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Jeff. I actually work for Verizon, and what we do at Verizon is we actually are looking to do different volunteering events, which the SciStarters stall catchers one was the one that we kind of, volunteered for. So, we had 80 something people on the first roll, and then we did a Giving Tuesday about 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure, Emma probably knows the exact number, but I know we had a bunch of people that came back. But part of what we're doing is just trying to give back to the community, and this is one of those projects where it actually has to do with a health issue right now, Alzheimer's, and this is a way of us basically looking in and determining what's going on with different blood vessels. As far as myself, I enjoy investigating because that's actually my job at Verizon. I'm in corporate security. And I also like doing research. So this was one of those projects which was really a lot of fun to do, and it's beneficial to a lot of people.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I love that project. It's great. Leopold, you are next on my list.
Yes, hello. So my name is Leopold. I am from Paris, France. And I have been volunteering as a citizen scientist in astronomy projects for the last 4 years. So it's been a very fun adventure. And as you can see on my background, so this is a system that was actually discovered by citizen scientists from the Backyard World project. So this is L26274, and this is a quadrupole system with a brown dwarf. So yes.
Are you just an astronomy fan? Is that how you got into it?
Yes, as an amateur, I am very interested in astronomy, but this is not at all my field in the daily life. So it's something I like to do on my hobbies.
Yeah, it's a thing to get away from the other things. Lisette, you are next. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Lisette Ruiz. I'm a biomedical engineer from Chiapas, Mexico. I'm happy to be here to talk about one of my favorite projects on SciStarter called Cool Neighbors. Since I was 5 years old, I always loved astronomy and everything related to space. So I started doing citizen science projects 3 years ago when I read an article about the impact of the discoveries of citizen scientists. And that's how I went to SciStarter and later to Cool Neighbors.
Yay, we're so happy to have you here too. Thanks for joining us. And then Anne, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi. I'm Ann Lewis. I'm from South Dakota. I am representing iNaturalist, and I'm in that sort of space between this is kind of my day job, but it's also kind of my passion and my hobby. I work for a hands-on science center, and so we try to incorporate citizen science into our work, but iNaturalist is sort of my passion project that I would do if I got paid for it or not. In fact, I get paid for very little of what I do on iNaturalist, except that at the beginning of this year, we were funded by National Geographic to do a specific project on iNaturalist about aquatic macroinvertebrates. So technically, I'm a National Geographic explorer using iNaturalist to explore the world.
Very cool. Macro invertebrates, is that what you said?
Aquatic macroinvertebrates, yes. And when I show you my observation, I'll kind of do the 30-second overview of what that is.
Macro big. I'm just hoping that squid are in that list.
Oh,
No?
maybe. Sorry.
Oh, bummer. Okay, that's okay. Excellent. And then Roland, do you want to give some brief background about why you're here too?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Roland from Lebanon, and as Emma said, I work with SciStarter as a developer and as a quality assurance coordinator, which means that sometimes I need to test some projects, including Eterna and many others, to make sure that they are working, they are still active, and they are tracking, because Eterna is an affiliate, as we're going to see later on during this presentation. So I'm excited to tell you more about it later.
Excellent. Yeah, awesome. And Eterna is like the toughest project on our entire system. So the fact that you went head first into it is just so exciting to be able to see like all that is involved in that project, because it is tough. So thank you everyone for your introductions. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions about why you are part of these projects. So I will go first as an example and then pass the torch over to the grouping of whoever I choose on the list. So we want to know what the purpose of each of these projects are and what brought us to these projects. We kind of covered what brought us to the project. So if you already discussed it, you can skip over. But the projects themselves, I'm representing CoCoRaHS, which is a long name, so I'm just going to refer to it as CoCoRaHS. But in essence, it's about measuring precipitation and snowfall over time to sense changes in the seasons and over time. So I'm involved in it because my parents moved to a very snowy place. And so last year, almost exactly, I bought my dad for Christmas a rain gauge to share with him to say, hey, do some science while you're living up there, because he's a big snow fan. And so he essentially put it up in his backyard and has been sending me pictures of the gauge when he sees changes happen. So we've been uploading on that, on the data spreadsheet how the changes have happened. So the one thought that comes to mind is like 16 centimeters is one of his first observations he made in his very snowy backyard. So it's been a nice way to connect with my dad and have him enjoy his weather, even if it's really cold and my mom complains and he's like, but science. So all the fun stuff in that way. And we get to share a lot more information about what's happening across the world too, because we don't know all that much about changes in precipitation across the globe in specific areas. So it's good to know. So that's my background of what the purpose of the project is and what brought me there. I'm going to pass the torch over in the opposite direction. So Leopold, you are first.
Okay, so Cool Neighbor aims at discovering brown dwarf. Brown dwarf are celestial bodies that are too massive to be considered as planets, like Jupiter, but not massive enough to be considered as a star and start nuclear fusion that will like light them up. So these systems were discovered quite recently in the 90s and are quite elusive because they emit only a little light. So we need to use infrared telescopes. And we are specifically using a telescope named WISE that is taking images of the whole sky every 6 months, which creates millions and millions of images to look at. So the aim of this project is to find and discover a new brown dwarf. And it will help science in the sense that brown dwarf, as they are intermediary between planets and stars, they share characteristics of both of them. For example, their clouds and atmospheres are similar to planets, but they can also form in conditions that are similar to stars. So it's a very interesting benchmark in order to understand better what is a planet, what is a star, and everything that we are discovering nowadays with the progress of astronomy and the tools used by it.
Excellent. And that's a great description. Liseth, do you want to add anything to the description of what Cool Neighbors is?
Yeah, like Leopold say, the mission of this project is to identify brown dwarfs in the sun's local neighborhood. Brown dwarfs are celestial objects with masses between stars and giant planets like Jupiter. By studying these objects, we learn more about exoplanet atmospheres, By studying this subject, we learn more about the star formation process, what compounds are prevalent throughout the galaxy, and much more. These celestial objects are so dim that the science team needs help from citizen scientists to spot them. In Cool Neighbors, we search for brown dwarfs in infrared images taken by NASA's WISP telescope, which was launched in 2009. Through the use of telescope data and the human's brain ability to distinguish patterns, we can identify real brown dwarfs hidden among other stars, galaxies, or noise. And I could say that this is the main purpose of this project.
You're identifying all those things. Very awesome. Thank you for both of you sharing those. Let's go to Anne for iNaturalist.
So iNaturalist, according to their website, is an online social network of people sharing biodiversity information to help each other learn about nature. It's also a crowdsourced identification system and an organism recording tool. What iNaturalist is to me, it's a way for me to go out and document and take pictures of or make recordings of nature that I find. Anything that's wild or natural, so anything from a little bee crawling around or even a housefly to some really cool organisms like what are known as charismatic megafauna. Like buffalo when I go to the Badlands, or a polar bear, something like that. And so you can take a picture and upload it, and it's geolocated, and other people can look at it and help you identify it, which with the buffalo and the polar bear is pretty easy, but sometimes the little critters can be, or plants especially, can be kind of like, what is this? This data is out there for people to use, researchers, and I'm actually collaborating, again, morphing over to my day job with some of the state agency natural resource staffs to get a better idea of the kind of organisms and aquatic life that's living in our lakes and streams and rivers.
Excellent. Yeah, very exciting that you can use it in your day job too. Honestly, it's kind of nice to have that crossover and have a hobby that allows you to have fun in that realm too. Roland, can you help us understand what Eterna is after?
Yes, and I'm going to share my screen briefly. So Eterna is an online game that invites players to to solve puzzles in order to design RNA-based medicine. It's very interesting. Like you mentioned, Emma, it can get really tough, but I guess that's the importance of gamifying the whole project. It's available it's available to play on the desktop browser as well as on the App Store and on Google Play. And even a low-end phone can run it, although it's a heavy game. It got featured on the New York Times, CNN, Wired, etc.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, you're all about finding that medicine, which is funny because the last one, which was previously described a little bit, if you want to add any more information there, Jeff, about what the purpose of stall catchers is in your mind, or trying to think back of what I said during our call about how to play it.
So it's actually it's an interesting thing because they're basically showing you short movies of blood vessels, and basically what you're trying to do is trying to figure out if there's blood flow or if there's areas in there that are restricted that don't have blood flow. And the really great part of it is it's not just one person doing this. There's hundreds of people who go through these same movies, and it's helping researchers, right? So it's not just one researcher trying to figure out what's going on in that blood vessel. There's hundreds of people looking at the same one, and people are, choosing flow, no flow, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And the interesting part too is you can kind of play it as a game, right? So we did it as a team. So we had, 45 people on at the same time, and everybody's trying to beat everybody by getting the most points. And truthfully, like the more times you get it correct, the more points you get. If you mess up, you lose points. So it's actually really competitive piece, and you do get a lot more done when there's a team because people are trying to get through these slides as quickly as possible. But it's fun in the case that you're actually doing some good work for researchers because you're helping them out and saving them some time.
Yeah, absolutely. And to remember that Giving Tuesday Catchathon, it was in one afternoon, so the 1 hour plus a couple extra people who stayed on, there was 30.7 hours of research equivalent work completed within that afternoon, which is a really big deal. So yes, that competition aspect definitely helps, right?
Mhm.
And this is a good transition point to actually see those projects in action. So Jeff, I'm gonna make you continue talking so that we can see what stall catchers really looks like from your end, if you want to share your screen and do an example stall. And another thing about stall catchers in this case is that you might be looking at stroke data too, so they're expanding and using that crowdsourcing ability to look at if medications are working in these videos, or if stroke data can also be identified through it. So we're looking at the page on SciStarter. Awesome.
Stall catchers. So, you know,
Your score is massive. Sorry, your score is way beyond mine.
I played a half an hour this morning too. You can see like there's a little red circle here in the corner. So basically you're watching a video and you're looking to see if there's any spots in there where it stopped, right? So I'm going to say that, actually, I had that one correct, but we'll do the next one. So really where the circle is, really any spots where there's any restrictions, right? So I'm going to say that this is flowing, and I was correct. So I get 128 points. And basically you just continue to go forward with this. You're looking for what's going on in here. Really, I think Emma was correct when she said it when we were looking at it the first time, is like, just go with your gut, right? Whatever you feel it is the first time, it's probably the right one. And then just basically you just keep going, so, but it's entertaining too. I did a half hour before the call today. I did like an hour last week. So really, like, when I have some free time, and at work, really, we're encouraged to do volunteer work. So this is one of those things where, in that case, I got that wrong, right? And then they show you where the stalls really work, because those are red dots. So I kind of on purpose to that. But this is the thing that we're doing, and it's definitely helping researchers. And you can see that people on here who play a lot. The person's got 1.1 million points, and I'm never going to catch them. But it's definitely good stuff to be doing. So, and let's see if I can figure out how to unshare. Sorry, or you can maybe get back from me. Okay, you got it.
Yeah. Let's go to Cool Neighbors and check out what that one looks like. Liseth, do you want to share your screen again? And then I apologize, it was actually, Leopold, do you remember how you were going to describe it both together? We shall see.
Yeah, this is the project page. When you start this project, the first thing you have to do is go to About part to learn more about you can meet the science team here. Then you go to Classify, and here you will see a feed look, which is a time-lapse video. The goal of this project is to catch some moving objects. So I'm going to click on play button. And if you see some moving object here, then you click on yes and done and talk. In this case, there is no moving object here. So I'm gonna click on no and done. Another example. Okay. In this example, there is no moving object here. So I'm gonna click on no, and I'm going to click on done and talk just to show you the talk page. This is the talk page. So if you have any comment or a questions, you can write here in the box conversations. And in that way, the science team can answer your questions or your comments. And this is the way I classify from draft in an easy way.
Excellent. Can you look back on Classify to see the tutorial, and we can look at one of their examples of what it looks like when it's moving? And Leopold, if you want to describe how it happens or the what to do when things are moving? Ooh, field guide.
These are some examples of moving objects. You can find in the file guide so many examples of real moving objects or some ghosts or artifacts. So this is how it looks, a real mover. In that case, here there's no moving object here. So we click on no and done.
I'm glad there's a field guide. Leopold, can you, or both of you can answer this, but I'm just, so when we're looking at these, since I'm not an astronomy buff, these images are just of open space. Like, what are we actually looking at?
Yes, that's it. These are infrared images of the WISE telescope. So this is a telescope that is in orbit and takes images of the sky every 6 months. So what you are looking at is actually a flip book of images stacked together for the last 10 years. So you can see that there are a bunch of images. And basically what we are looking for are objects that are going to move, because by the effect of what we call parallax, they will appear as moving because they are closer to us. So if an object appears as it is moving, it means that relatively to the background stars, it will be closer to us. And this is what we are targeting. Maybe I can show you some example if I share my screen.
Yeah, I will shift it for you. There you go. It's so funny seeing, like, those images are hard to, I mean, in star catchers, it's also funny because you get to look at real science data is kind of like the obvious point of like, yeah, you're looking at the real stuff if it looks like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here I will show you 2 examples. So this is a very close object that is obviously moving, as you can see. And it is moving relatively to the background stars. You would not notice if you did not see a background object to compare with. So this is basically a brown dwarf. And we know it because for every flipbook, we have a bunch of links that will show us if the object is already known in the most common astronomical databases. For example, Simbad. And here you see that the object is already referenced. So this is a brown dwarf, the object that we mentioned earlier. And from some data, we can know that this is a very close object. It would be approximately a bit less than 40 light years away. So this is a close object. It's very nice because this is exactly what we are looking for, but unfortunately, it's already known. However, some other example, this one, and it's nice because Lisette is the first one who discovered it.
Hey.
You can see a very elusive one. So this very tiny orange dot might be a brown dwarf, a very tricky one. And here you can see why we need citizen scientists, because it's very difficult to make the distinction between the actual object and background noise. So you need a lot of pairs of eyes, a lot of patience, and a lot of background checks to make sure if the object is known or not. Here, I will show you that in Simbad, so you have a source, but it's very far away from our source. It would be around here. So you know that it's not the center object. And if you look at another view, so this tool, WiseView, was created by Dan Katzeldan, who is another citizen scientist who decided to develop and expand on pre-existing projects and created this tool, which is WiseView. And here you can see the same object, and maybe it becomes more obvious. You can skip middle epoch and you will really see the movement appearing. Yes, here you can see that there is something, a tiny orange dot. And you can also notice green overlays, which are data points from another satellite, which name is Gaia. This is a European satellite. And the fact that an object is not reported in Gaia is extra good news because it means it's not even in this specific survey. So this is exactly what we are looking for. And whenever citizen scientists find some such objects, we can send them directly to the scientific team so that they can study it thoroughly. So there is a system of a Google form, and it can help reporting objects quicker in these kind of situations.
Excellent. That's great that Lisa, that's so cool. Congratulations for being the first one on that one. I don't think I would be recognizing that
Thank
spot.
you.
It comes with practice. Some of them are very obvious,
Yeah.
some of them are less. And one great clue for success is actually sharing your observation, if you agree or not. So here you can see that a lot of citizen scientists study this object and exchange to know if they agreed or not on the fact that this is interesting or not.
Yeah. Wow. The analytical skills you two or all of you in these projects have developed is just crazy. Makes me want to recommend it to people who are like, it's not good at like fine detail. I'm like, oh, do a citizen science project, do any of these, and you'll gather that ability in no time. Wow, that's awesome. All right, I'm going to hijack your screen so that we can shift it over to Anne if you want to go over your iNaturalist practice.
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to share with you my observation, one of my current favorites. It's hard to say, it's hard to pick just one. But first I want to say, just give a shout out to the other volunteers, because at our science center, we do a lot of health careers and we do a lot of science, space science stuff. So I am just eating up all these other projects and making notes and going to get them out to the proper staff. But anyway, this is one of my most recent favorite observations. And I think, I don't know how many people are familiar with iNaturalist, but essentially it's a way to disrupt a hike and get all your hiking buddies really mad at you because you cannot go outside without wanting to take a picture. I just keep my my macro lens with me all the time, and I actually upgraded my camera so I could take better bird pictures, simply for the reason to upload them to iNaturalist. But you upload it and you take a picture, and there is an app. I'm old school. I've been using the website for a long time, so I still do that, partly because I like to edit my photos with the light before I add them, and do some judicious cropping. So you upload them and there they are so that people can come along and look at them. So when I uploaded this, I said it was a Renatra, a water scorpion. And Matthew came along and he said, oh, it is a water scorpion. So again, like with Cool Neighbors, you have this back and forth. That's that crowdsourcing. I probably should have showed you one where I got my initial ID wrong, and that probably would have been a little more informative, like not like I always get this right, because I don't. And then Noros came along and also said it was a Renatra. And so this reached research grade because you had folks, 2/3 of the community identifying said, yes, this is what it is. And this one's a little unusual in that it's not down to species. Usually for an observation to be added to research grade, it has to be identified at the species level and not the genus level. But the reason that ended up as research grade, and I'll talk about what that is in a moment, is that down here in the data quality assessment, this is what good research quality data looks like. And then down here in this gray box, the community taxon, and that's the community identification, can still be improved or confirmed or improved. And I think it was Matthew, is that who was it? Yeah, he went ahead and said, no, it's as good as it can be. And so if someone who really knows what they're talking about, and Matthew, he's a PhD in aquatic ecology, says, no, we can't get it any better from a photo. And it has to be below family level. So subfamily or genus or, of course, species, it can be research grade. So what research grade means is now that it is ported into the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, where it is available as known quality data for researchers to use for whatever reasons they might want to use it. GBIF, as it's known, is an international database that's accessible to researchers from all over the world. I don't know exactly who gets access to it. I think every country has to sort of agree to support it. But that's kind of cool to know that your data is in there. And I always tell people when they sign up, use a good name, a name you would be proud to have published, because I have, if it's like, my dog's floppy ears, if that's the name, that's what's going to be used if your data goes into GBEF and it's used as in a citation in a publication. So should I just take a breath for questions? Because I'm kind of rattling here.
Oh yeah, you can take a break in general. I'm thinking through if there's a better way to see if you want to show, like if you were to hit upload, I'm just curious what it will show you for the
Sure.
what it looks like.
Yeah. So I didn't have a picture. I don't have a picture ready, but upload. And so you would choose a file.
Other observations, actually, the little cards that it shows you.
Yeah.
I think it's edit your observations is what it goes to.
Okay, sure. Oh crud, my mouse is acting up.
Oh no.
So you want me to edit? Okay.
Yeah, we'll just to show everyone how it looks if you're going in to do the observation online, like what it looks like to add in all your information.
Yeah. And this is basically, it's a version of this. If you have an EXIF file, if you have some sort of camera, usually your phone does, but some, 35 millimeter, I don't know that they're called that anymore, but larger cameras will have the geolocation embedded into the file. Otherwise, you can manage the geolocation manually that way.
Excellent. Yeah, that is definitely helpful because I know I've had instances of people where they can't get their pictures identified because they are missing pieces like the location. So it is that is really good to note there of the you can add it yourself. And Robin in the chat actually added in some more information too as a frequent iNaturalist user. The iNat AI is really good. Is a really good start to identification. I've learned a lot about my area's flora and fauna through iNaturalist and help track living organisms. Yeah, I mean, I rely on that like no one's business, Robin, and also, and that AI saves me because I'm like, I don't know what this is, but it's cool looking. It's cool.
A definite pro tip is to look at the computer vision and go with the taxonomy that you are most confident of. I had a observation I uploaded, a little soil critter from my backyard, and it said it was a marine snail or something like that. And I am about as far from the ocean as you can be. So we just kind of bumped it up to, I think, an arthropod or something where it was
more reasonable.
More reasonable. Or you could just go with, this is a marine snail in the middle of South Dakota, and somebody will come along and say that it's wrong and help you get it there. So either way, you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you go down. Is it true that if you have a more specific answer to what species it is that or if you guess a species, that'll be more likely for someone to go in and check it for you or like confirm or deny? Is that pretty?
Yeah, actually, yes, because that brings us to the identify side of this. And so did I share the right screen so you're now seeing a different screen? Yes. Okay. So when you have people who have their geeks, their passions, their organisms, and so when people and that is how the predominant way they will use iNaturalist. They won't have these, mind-boggling large number of observations, but they will have a lot of identification. So this is what the identify interface looks like. And you get there by going to more and identify. You have to go through more on the main page, I think. So you can put your species that you want to identify in here and then place, if you want to limit it by a geographic region, and then other filters such as time or, some other, kind of limitation that you want to look at only these things. Mm-hmm. There are hardcore identifiers that will look at unknowns. And if we look at the filters, this is the unknown, and they will specifically look at that, just so they can get the unknowns to tree, down to tree or plant or animal, so that people can take it to the next level. I'm looking at damselflies for that project I spoke about, and I'm specifically looking for nymphs because I want to pull them into another project. So we can look at all the damselfly nymphs on iNaturalist. So and this is what I do, and there aren't any on this page, but I'll look for a nymph, and when I find one, this isn't a nymph, but I'll still go ahead and annotate it. I don't really identify it, I annotate it. And this is obviously an adult, so I'll say it's an adult. And that way, if someone's looking for, they just want adult damselflies, they can filter by damselflies, adults. I started at over 7,000 pages. I'm hoping there's someone else out there working on this, because I want to do dragonflies and then mayflies and so on next. But so
that's quite a few pages. I'm excited that there's so many people looking at all of these.
it's a lot. So there's 30 observations per page, and I don't want to do the math because it makes me feel overwhelmed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, don't do the math. Math is unnecessary in this case. But thank you so much for showing us that. I've never actually looked at that identify page, so I'm excited to have a little bit more of a head start on how to get started on my end. So thank you for sharing that. Eterna, Roland, do you want to show off what the Eterna page looks like now that it's super loaded there? It's such an interesting looking game too.
Yes, let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so once you go to eternagame.com, let me put the link in the chat. Actually, Eterna.
Eterna game.
Okay, and that's the project link on SciStarter. And from there, you can see all the instructions and how to participate, including the visit link, which takes you to eterna.com. Now, I accessed this puzzle without being logged in, without even being logged in. So you can start with this level. So let's try it. Let's go with the tutorial. This is RNA. Each circle represents a chemical subunit known as a base. So we are basically trying to match the bases to reach a certain shape, to make it snap on itself. And this is the toolbar where we can change the base pairs. Okay, there are 4 bases in RNA, A, U, and UG and GC. Okay. Okay. These are the requirements. We need at least 4 bases of this one. So let me try to, just 1 second. Example, we have to color this one and like this.
Are you changing them at random, or is there a...
I'm trying to remember the rules because in general, yeah, you have to satisfy these conditions. So now I have 4 pairs of blue and 4 times the red one, and now the green one.
Okay, so that top left-hand side tells you the conditions that you need to satisfy in order to move forward.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if I change this one, it will take another shape. So let's try to, and yeah, that's the first puzzle solved. Now, I took some guessing while working at it, although it's the easiest level, and that's what we can do at some point. You can try to mix pairs. And because I remember from earlier on that when you zigzag these colors, it creates more attraction for the desired shape. That's why I was trying to change these things. Now, when I'm logged in, here on this browser, I'm logged in, and this is the help page. Although it's a hard game, there's lots of help on the website and in the puzzle itself, where you can discuss, you can open the chat and chat with other players, other users to load in an instant.
Yeah. This one's interesting too, Roland, because when we've done an event on this one before where we talked about how there were high school classes in biology using this to train their students on like what the nucleotides are, which I thought was super fascinating, because imagine being a high schooler and putting this into the perspective of a game and getting them excited about what these things are. So it's really a cool project to learn some really significant knowledge about RNA, and being able to use it in a classroom is pretty exciting. So for anyone who's a teacher out there, very highly recommend. And we do have one more project to show just briefly. I'll be pretty quick with CoCoRaHS to move forward, but thank you all for sharing the demos, by the way. That is super helpful. And now anyone who is approaching this knows exactly who to look to as a idol in there, or who the what's the right word for it? A guide, a spiritual guide to help them get through it. If any of you live in snowy or rainy areas, if you are interested in CoCoRaHS, this is what the general project looks like as a whole. So I have the 16 centimeters or so of precipitation listed here. I always would add it to the snow measurement form, the precipitation and snow measurement form here. And so as long as you keep this up to date, that's basically the entire project. So you apply to join as a community member, which you should still see my screen. Let me double check. Yes. Okay. Yes. So when you apply, all you need to be able to say is like your location and if you're ready to do this and if you will consistently empty the rain gauge. You also need a rain gauge in general. So they give you all the instructions here. I won't spend a whole ton of time, but it is a pretty easy project to get started with if you're interested and you live in an area with lots of precipitation and snowfall. So good things there. I'll go ahead and stop my screen share for a moment to finish off our questions. We did some demonstrations already, and I'm curious, we did sort of talk about tips for others, and I want to know what the others think about tips for the people also attempting these projects. So cool neighbor friends, what are your tips for people getting started? What helped you?
Maybe if I can, yeah, go on, Lisette.
Oh, no, you.
Okay, maybe if I can share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I will try to be quick. I think the most important thing to remember is that you can dig as far as you want, but anyone can participate to this project. You have a field guide, as you saw, so that will give you a lot of examples. There are some tutorials that will explain everything and guide you through how to classify. And I think this is a very good starting point. So on the first time when you log on to the project, you will be instructed everything. And I think it's nice to just go through this instruction. Then many volunteers are like a bit are confronting to the question, am I doing things right? A lot of them have some kind of anxiety, wondering, am I not messing up with the data from the scientists? And basically the answer is no. You have to dare to do classification. And in case you have doubt, if you want to know if you're doing things right, my one advice would be just go to the talk page and ask other citizen scientists, are you doing things right or not? And there is a great ambience, super helpful volunteers that will always be very happy to tell you if you're doing things right, if your observation is correct. Sometime you will realize that basically people don't agree. And this is what is also very interesting about this project. It can launch a lot of debates. And finally, if you want to go even deeper in the project, you can go to the help section. And there is a tutorial that is not necessary if you want to just do the project and discover it. But if you really want to dig deeper and understand and go through the data, it is possible to go quite far into the analysis of the tiles that you are analyzing and just following the steps that will be here. So it's quite comprehensive, and this will give you a lot of clues to understand what you are actually observing and how far you can go to be helpful to the professional scientists.
Excellent. Yeah, lots of resources on there to use. I feel like that can be an entire afternoon is looking through all those things. Liseth, what would you recommend for anyone getting started? What's your tip?
I think it's very important that you don't be afraid to ask your questions to the science team using the talk page. Little by little, you will learn and train your eyes to identify some brown drops that are really faint. Find a topic that you like, learn everything about it, and in that way, it will be easy for you to classify and spend time on the project. I have more than 40,000 classifications, so follow all the instructions and maybe you will be the next citizen scientist to find something really cool in the universe.
Oh my gosh, you're so oh gosh, what's the word for it? When you're supporting with very happy thoughts for everyone. Very supportive. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Jeff, what is your advice for anyone getting started with stall catchers?
You don't think you guys are going to be able to hear me because my dogs are barking, but real important to make sure that you read through the page. And if you're going to be doing this as a group or a group of people together, make sure everybody creates their accounts before you start.
Oh.
That was the one thing I think when we did it all together, there was a little bit of a lag time. It's just everybody trying to figure out how to get into the page and to actually create the account. But other than that, it's very self-explanatory. It's definitely a lot of fun, and it's one of the better ones that I've been on so far. So I wanted to try the other ones too, but they all look really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And a bunch of them are available on your Verizon SciStarter page, by the way. So I think maybe not Cool Neighbors, but Eterna and iNat are both on your page for sure.
We'll get back in touch with you next year. Don't worry.
Oh wait, Zooniverse is in Verizon actually, so you probably do have Cool Neighbors available to you. Yeah, now I think about it.
Yep.
Anyway, yes, excellent. Yeah. Especially if you're doing a team outing, I totally agree. You got to get those accounts set up early, especially if you're all joining one team. Definitely helps. Any last advice from Anne about iNaturalist taking pictures?
Yeah, I'll just take this, share my screen real quick.
Ooh.
Yeah, just go ahead and do it. Set up your account, then you'll have to confirm your account. It's a two-step process. And then just go ahead and do it. And don't be afraid about being wrong. I'm sharing my very obviously wrong, embarrassingly wrong. And it's no big deal. It's also no big deal if no one comes around and confirms your observation. That's really not why you're doing it. I think most of the volunteers get started just to get outside and look beyond what's Aldo Leopold has a quote that says, appreciation of the beautiful begins with the merely pretty. If you really want to see the beauty of the world, you get down on your knees and start taking pictures of whatever you see. And iNat's a great way to do that.
Beautifully put. Excellent. Yeah, I would not have known what that is either, if that makes you feel any better. It looks odd and fun and kind of like an alien. Roland, any thoughts on Eterna? Any last advice? And I'll close this out.
Yes, well, just like classification-based projects, just do your best, and the collective wisdom is almost always guaranteed that it will return the best results, something that's equal to results from professional scientists. And noting that the tutorials you have to go through are long enough for you to get trained. Once you reach the lab level where you are able to design real puzzles and they get sent to real laboratories for real testing, by then you will be an expert for sure.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm glad they have so many tutorials to teach you that beforehand too, so you're definitely ready to help. This has been excellent. I want to close this off with any last thoughts on if any of you do multiple projects, do Any of you do other projects besides the one that you are the top contributor for otherwise? Are you, if you have any that you'd like to point out, I'd love to hear them. Your thoughts? You can shout them out if you want.
It's sort of a add-on to my iNat work, Project Feeder Watch with Cornell.
Oh, yeah, totally. Feeder Watch. And then Instant Wild, Roland just dropped that in the chat. I love Instant Wild too. Big fan. It's easy. Easy and very helpful. Iguanas from Above from last 2 weeks ago. Love that one too. Any others come to mind? No? Strongly only cool neighbors for you two. Yeah, it's the only one you do. It's like, meh. Oh, Backyard Worlds, Planet 9, tests. Yeah, totally. Sorry, Lisette, what were you gonna say?
I currently participate in projects like Glow Program, Glow at 9, which is a NORLab project, Solar Jet Hunter. I have a science team called CERSMX, and we participate in the International Astronomical Search Collaboration Campaign to hunt asteroids. And in general, I try to participate in all the new projects about the space. And recently, I was selected as NORLab ambassador, social media ambassador. So this is another way that I contribute to science projects.
That is excellent. Awesome. Oh, Project Witness. I haven't heard of that one. Jeff, and yeah, oh, absolutely. Congratulations, Lisa, on all those things.
We have where it actually deals with incarcerated youth, people that are under the age of 18, how they're treated in prison, and different ways that we can help to support how they're actually, when they're in court, what they have as far as sentences, what they do with them when they're in there. So it's more of the United States. I know there's other countries here today, but with here, we don't really treat our prisoners really well, especially those that are underage, because they a lot of times end up in solitary confinement for a majority of the time that they're there, which is really not a good thing for people that are, younger people to be done.
Definitely. Wow, that's a great project to participate in. Thank you for sharing that one. Excellent. It has been so lovely to have you all on. I'm going to close this out. We're just nearly at the hour, so I'm going to speed through these things. But thank you for being willing to join us as the volunteers and talk about these things, because these are really cool projects, and I'm excited to know the people behind the actual data that's coming through, because we don't always get to talk to each other, but now we do, and we'll have more. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen briefly. For anyone who's looking for more and wanting to see more happen soon, we had an event for Christmas time-ish last year to celebrate Santa to a certain extent. We were talking to NORAD to see how they track Santa. So if any of you have family fun times planned and want something to watch together, that's a really fun family-friendly event we did last year. And we'll be back live on January 2nd for a whole slew of events through Citizen Science Month, which is next April. So if any of you are looking for big reasons to get excited for anything, April is our biggest month. We're looking to do 1 million acts of science. That's our campaign for 2024 April. So we hope to have all of you back for all those contributions that we can make. And I will definitely be talking to our friends online here about making sure we are participating in those things too. So for anyone who needs support looking for more things in the future, we have our info email if you have any questions for SciStarter. You can also reach out to the project leaders, take trainings, look for more projects, listen to our podcast, and ask the community a million things you can do on SciStarter to get you comfortable with the projects. The last thing I'll note, especially since Cool Neighbors is here, we have a project or we have a partnership with NASA to do bigger events with NASA specific projects and talk to a whole lot of people about how to get involved. Cool Neighbors is potentially going to be talked about in our next one. So I'm excited to have you guys come and join us for that one too. So we will be back for that in February is Do NASA Science Live. So thank you everyone who joined. If you would like to answer our survey to tell us what should be next, we'd love to hear it. You can drop, you can use this link in the chat to follow it and take that mini survey, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. So I will let you all go. It's 1 minute after. I apologize. We got so close, but have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. And thank you so much. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes. Awesome. Happy to have y'all here.